Hey everybody, what is going on? My name is NGS. Thank you so much for clicking on the video, and today we're going to be talking nothing but Devil May Cry. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I heard your request. I'm finally doing another video on the franchise. Can you really blame me for not talking about it? I mean, Capcom doesn't talk about it, and they're the ones who make these games. So what do you expect me to do about it? What am I going to do? Rant about the fact that they're not doing a game in a really awesome franchise? I'm already dead inside. I've been dead for years. And this is really not going to help. I'm trying to rehabilitate myself. And talking about Capcom and what they've done with beloved franchises is not helping anybody. But what I want to talk about today, though, might give me a little ray of hope. I'm going to talk about the future of Devil May Cry. About the only news we heard regarding Devil May Cry's future came around a year and a half ago. I want to say December 2014, when we learned that Capcom was doing some HD remasters of games in the series. Both those games came out in 2015, and it prompted a lot of people to discuss the future of the franchise. Where is Capcom going to take this series next? So that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the future of Devil May Cry, and why I believe that a sequel game is going to be announced a lot sooner than we think. So in order to illustrate my point and why I believe the title is what it says, let's rewind a sec to that announcement trailer where Capcom announced that they were bringing out 2 Devil May Cry games on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Those games being Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and DMC from Ninja Theory, the reboot game. Both those games were coming out on PS4 and Xbox One. They were hosting a wealth of upgrades and features, in some cases new bonus content characters you've never played as. A lot of good stuff. Fans rejoiced. A lot of people loved them when they came out. Whether you were a new fan of the series or a returning veteran. Whether you wanted to experience the games for the very first time or you're a seasoned vet who wants to pull off some stylish combo chains in 1080p, 60 frames per second goodness. But me, on the other hand, I was a little bit more perplexed on why Capcom was bringing out these 2 games in the Devil May Cry series. These 2 games. Now, I'm not a person who really gives into conspiracy theories too much. I pretty much, for the most part, think they are BS. Oh, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to humor a lot of people who made some really interesting comments about why Capcom decided to bring these games out. So, let's discuss it. You have Devil May Cry 4, right? Devil May Cry 4 that's being re-released. This is going to be for Gen 1 players. These are going to be for the guys who grew up playing Devil May Cry. And then over here on the opposite end, you have the DMC reboot from Ninja Theory. This is going to be for new fans of the series who really haven't played too many of the older games. We're going to call that Gen 2. I apologize for them sounding like Pokemon titles, but hey, bear with me. This is how my brain works in such a short amount of time. You have Capcom bringing out 2 very, very polarizing games of the series. 2 games that could not be any more different than they already are. These games they're re-releasing. Was there another reason why Capcom decided to put these games out in the fashion that they did? So, both of them come out in 2015. You had Devil May Cry 4 launching digitally outside of Japan, and then you had DMC Definitive Edition launching physically and digitally. Some very interesting things that I need to bring up, though, about DMC, the reboot title. This isn't going to be a video discussing the relevancy of DMC and the rants and the history behind it, because I've already done that to death. If you want to hear a really great breakdown of the series, from the initial Inception trailer all the way up to its release, go check out Event Status, Main Event TV. He did a great job aggregating all the news and controversy surrounding the reboot title. But what I want to point out is Capcom's forecast for DMC, how much they thought the game was going to succeed. Because if you're looking at it on paper, realistically, most would have thought that Capcom would move forward with DMC 2, right? It's a reboot title in the series. In most cases, when you hear a reboot, you're pretty much, all the old continuities just flushed out the water. We're going to move forward with this new title. Realistically, moving forward with a reboot makes a lot of sense long term, because it gives you the opportunity to do a lot more things that you really, for the most part, couldn't do with the old work. However, I think that the sales for DMC painted a very different picture in the offices of Capcom. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm talking about what Capcom expected out of DMC. With DMC, Capcom, I think they set their expectations a little bit too high. And by that, I mean they thought this game was going to do gangbusters. And by gangbusters, I'm talking about sell millions upon millions of copies. I'm not talking about one, not talking about two. I'm talking about top tier Resident Evil levels. Like the sales that you would get for a Resident Evil title, they thought that they were going to do that with this reboot game. They thought it would appeal to so many people. Unfortunately, the sales did not reflect that. Now, I don't sit in the Capcom boardroom. I'm not one of their investors. Heck, I don't even know what goes into what makes a game profitable or not. It's always changing depending on the developer and the publisher you're talking to. But what I will say this, and I know for certain, Capcom was worried about the release of DMC. So much so that they had to slash the sales forecast multiple times. I think the original sales forecast was like 7 million, then they cut it down to 5, and then it ended up being in the low 1 millions. I think it was like 1.2, 1.5 million, something like that. Now, the game came out, and it was a critical success, but I don't think it was as financially successful as Capcom wanted it to be. Maybe the game made its budget back. Heck, maybe it was profitable. We'll never know. But I think one thing is certain. It did not do the success that Capcom wanted. And how do we know? Well, with the rate that video game sequels are being announced these days, they would have definitely announced a new title, especially considering it's been 3 years since the release of DMC Reboot. And moving on to Devil May Cry 4, on the other hand, Devil May Cry 4 is just more relevant for Capcom. Why? The sales for the game. Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. When Capcom released their financial report, they cited Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition as one of the key pillars and what kept them profitable. Check this out. Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and DMC Definitive Edition both launched last year. The digital game made more bank for Capcom than the new title that is fresh in everybody's mind. The game that at the time of its release was 7 years old did more for Capcom than the new entry that was supposedly what saved the franchise. Look at any of the reviews. I think it's pretty clear that Capcom wanted to go towards the one that made the money, especially considering how dedicated these fans are. Because this game was released only digitally. DMC Definitive Edition, on the other hand, had the opportunity to be released both, physical and digital. Now, why did I spend 7 minutes talking about this stuff? Why is this relevant? Why? Because of what I'm about to show you, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. Capcom potentially about to pull the trigger on Devil May Cry 5. Now, all the information is going to be linked down below in the video description. It doesn't make much sense to just sit here and read off the article. This, of course, is from Push Square. But I will say this. All of the things that have led up to the release of Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and everything after that, it gives me very, very strong hopes that they are going to move forward with the Devil May Cry 5. And there's some pretty good evidence to suggest that. So not only did we have the sales of DMC4 Definitive Edition, its entire existence as a whole, the fact that Capcom has not moved forward with a sequel to DMC2, we have what is probably the most damning piece of evidence in favor of Devil May Cry 5. And it comes in the form of this picture. Now, to some, you're not going to wonder what in the world you're looking at. Were you looking at dudes in scuba diving gear? What is this, Neo? No. This, ladies and gentlemen, is two actors from the Devil May Cry series. Looking at them, you probably know who they are. On the left, we have veteran voice actor, Mr. Johnny Young Bosch. I don't need to explain who this guy is. I mean, you hear him once, you hear him everywhere. And the person to his right is Ruben Langdon. These guys were responsible for bringing both Nero and Dante to life in Devil May Cry 4. Now, why is this significant? Why? It's just two actors in the industry posting photos together. It doesn't really mean much. Actors work together all the time. What's the big deal, Neo? There's a lot to be concerned about. First off, let's look at what they're wearing. right? These guys are wearing motion capture suits. Motion capture is used in video game development. It's used in film. It just brings a more immersive experience. It makes things feel a lot more genuine than actually going in the computer and animating stuff. There's really detailed breakdowns online if you want to look at it. I mean, the Naughty Dog diaries that they released for Last of Us in the Uncharted series do a really great job at that. But these guys are in motion capture suits. These guys also did the motion capture work on Devil May Cry 4. I think you know where I'm going with this. So you have these guys, right, who are part of the Devil May Cry franchise, who have done the motion capture work for 2 characters. They're in the same photo together, but that doesn't mean anything, right? It could just be 2 actors working together. I mean, just because Troy Baker and Laura Bailey are photographed together in motion capture suits, that doesn't mean that they're working on an infamous Second Son. They could be working on Uncharted 4 stuff. Johnny Young Bosch posted this photo on his Facebook. Johnny Young Bosch removed this photo from his Facebook. Like I said, I don't give into conspiracy theories, but a lot of things are just really weird nowadays when you have actors removing photos of them in production on stuff. We've seen it time and time again with many voice actors who let slip that they're working on something and then they remove it. Nobody knows why, but everything dies down. And then a couple of months later, we actually hear what they're working on. I'm not saying anything, but I think the writing is on the wall, as Sam Smith would say. So, we have that image, okay? And then we have something else that, while it's not a clear indication, I think it's basically gearing us towards the direction we've all thought this franchise was going, which is this right here. This is an interview that was done around the release of Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, talking about the franchise's future. A lot of people had the same speculation that a lot of people thought that this game was going to spell either the doom of the franchise or was going to make it continue. A lot of people thought that. And so basically the producer of the game came out and said, no, it's not like that. We're just looking for the fan feedback. We want to hear what you guys think. So go out and buy the game. This is a situation where you really have to read between the lines of what these guys are saying. Because it's very easy to look at the fact that, we want your fan feedback and stuff, as them saying, yeah, we care about you guys. This is coming from Capcom, right? This is coming from the company who is in a very, very, very dire situation financially. They don't have the money to make the same mistakes that they did last generation. So them saying this sort of thing means a hell of a lot more than it did in 2013, 2012, 2011. All the debacles that they had with their franchises. And what's the number one way to show companies that we want to get shit done? By voting with our wallets. And I'm just going to leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying anything's going to get done. I'm not saying they're going to announce something tomorrow. I'm not saying shiz is going to happen at E3. But I do think it is very, very strange that Capcom put out HD remasters for 2 games in the series, 2 very different games in the series, that it was very different for Capcom to not announce a sequel to a game that they were hyping to hell and back. Thought it was very strange that they cited Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition as one of the reasons why they are financially sound, as opposed to DMC Definitive Edition, and why Johnny Young Bosch had to remove a photo of him in a mocap suit. I'm just going to leave it at that. We can speculate about other things at a different time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is NGS. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. What do you think about it? Comment down below. I will catch you guys later. Peace.